A child stands at a doorway on October 31st, adjusting a mask that doesn't quite fit. Behind the plastic, their eyes flicker with something ancient. Excitement, yes, but also the instinct every human carries. The knowledge that some nights are different, that some thresholds shouldn't be crossed lightly. That mask is older than Rome. The ritual on your street is the last surviving echo of humanity's oldest conversation, the one with death. Tonight we're going beneath the costume, beneath the candy and the commercials. We're crossing back through 2,000 years to find the myth that still moves through Halloween like a pulse. And we're going to discover that the veil between worlds was never just out there, it was always within. This is the myth behind Halloween, and it begins in the dark. If you've always sensed there's more to this world than meets the eye, subscribe. This is Beyond Mythology. We think of Halloween as American, as modern, as manufactured. But walk through any neighborhood tonight and you're watching something older than Christianity perform itself. Children in disguise, going door to door, negotiating with strangers, offerings exchanged at thresholds, lights carved into gourds to guide the wandering dead. That language is Samhain, and it wasn't invented, it was remembered. Because every culture that ever watched summer die understood. There are nights when the world exhales, when the membrane between what is and what was becomes thin enough to touch. Samhain was the Celtic name for that moment, the hinge of the year, the crack in time where everything that's been buried comes back to the surface. And we never stopped needing it, we just stopped knowing why. Samhain, pronounced so-win, like the wind through a hollow tree. October 31st flowing into November 1st, but not as days on a calendar, as a rupture, a doorway opening in the year itself. For the Celts of Ireland, Scotland and Wales, this wasn't superstition. It was astronomical fact translated into ritual. The harvest had ended. The fields were bare. The sun was dying its slow death toward winter solstice. And when the light fails, what's been hidden in it comes forward. This was the death of the solar year, not symbolic, literal. Time itself became circular on Samhain night, the end touching the beginning, the dead walking into the living world, the future bleeding into the present through dreams and fire. You stood on Samhain night neither in summer nor winter, neither among the living nor entirely separate from the dead. You stood in the threshold, and thresholds in every mythology are where transformation happens, where you stop being what you were and haven't yet become what you'll be. That's why Samhain mattered. That's why it still does. The Celts called it the otherworld, Tir na Nog, the land of the young, the realm of the Aos. But here's what we get wrong. They didn't think of it as heaven or as some distant afterlife you go to when you die. They thought of it as here, coexistent, a parallel frequency running alongside ours, separated by the thinnest of membranes, the veil. Most of the year that membrane holds, but on Samhain, as the world itself dies, it thins. Not gone, translucent. And through it, things move both ways. The ancestors return, not as ghosts haunting, but as family coming home. They're cold. They're seeking warmth, recognition, the smell of the hearth they once tended. A place is set for them at the table. Food is left at the door, not charity, communion. You feed your dead because they're still part of the family, because forgetting them means forgetting yourself. But it wasn't only ancestors crossing back. In later European lore, you hear the wild hunt on Samhain night, a procession of souls neither fully alive nor entirely at rest, led by old gods across storm-dark skies. You hear it in the wind, you see it in the way animals go silent. It's the boundary dissolving, and everything that lives between worlds coming through. This wasn't unique to the Celts. The Mexicans call it Dia de los Muertos. The Norse knew Hell Nights. The Japanese honor Obon. Every culture that paid attention learned the same thing. There are times when the dead remember us as vividly as we remember them. But the ancestors weren't the only ones crossing. The Aos, the people of the mounds, the fairy folk, these were never Tinkerbell. They were the original inhabitants of the land, older than memory, neither human nor god, but something that existed in the category between beautiful and terrible, generous and cruel, impossible to predict. And on Samhain, they walked freely. So did the puja, shapeshifters. One moment a black horse, the next a raven, the next something that has no name in daylight language. These beings were transformation itself given form. They belonged to thresholds the way we belong to solid ground. You didn't pray to them, you respected them. You negotiated, because they could bless your house or burn your fields, and the difference was how carefully you honored the boundary. That's the part we've lost, the knowledge that some things are neither good nor evil. They're other. And on Samhain, when the veil is thin, the other is close enough to touch you back. So what do you do when the veil thins? When your dead are walking and the spirits are abroad and the night itself feels like it's breathing? You light a fire. The Samhain bonfire wasn't decorative. It was the community gathering at the heart of the dark, making light together, purifying the boundary, calling the living into one place while the dead wandered outside it. Every household would extinguish their hearth and relight it from the communal flame. One fire shared, one protection, collective. You left offerings, bread and milk at the threshold, a plate at the table. Not because you were afraid, but because the dead are still family. Because hospitality doesn't end at death, you disguised yourself, wore the skins of animals, covered your face in ash, turned your clothes inside out. If you looked like a spirit, maybe the dangerous ones would pass you by. Maybe you could move between worlds without being claimed by either. And you read the future. Apples and mirrors, water and fire. Samhain was when time folded, so you could see forward and backward at once. Girls would peel an apple in one strip and throw it over their shoulder to see the initial of their future husband. You'd gaze into a dark mirror and glimpse the face of the dead. Divination wasn't fortune-telling. It was looking through the veil while it was still thin enough to see through. These weren't superstitions. They were technologies of balance, ways to hold the boundary while honoring what moves across it. And then the church arrived. But here's what's fascinating. They didn't destroy Samhain. They did something more elegant, more total. They absorbed it. November 1st became All Saints' Day. November 2nd became All Souls' Day. October 31st, the night before the Holy Day, became All Hallows' Eve. Hallows, from the Old English for holy ones, the saints, the sanctified dead. The spirits became saints. The other world became purgatory. The bonfire became the vigil candle. The offerings at the threshold became prayers for the departed. But the veil remained. The architecture didn't change, only the names. The dead still returned. You still honored them. The threshold was still thin. The church reframed the doorway, but the architecture remained. And this happened everywhere Christianity touched indigenous tradition. In Mexico, Samhain met Aztec death rituals and became Dia de los Muertos. Same structure, same flowers on graves, same food for the ancestors, same understanding. The dead come home, and we welcome them. The saints replaced the spirits, but the veil remained. Watch how the symbols transform but never die. The jack-o'-lantern. Originally carved from turnips in Ireland and Scotland, a flame held inside a hollowed face. The legend says a man named Stingy Jack tricked the devil, and when he died, neither heaven nor hell would take him. So he wanders the earth with a coal from hell inside a carved turnip, lighting his way between worlds. It's Prometheus in miniature, the fire stolen and carried through the dark. Trick-or-treating comes from souling and guising, going door to door, offering prayers or performances in exchange for soul cakes. It was negotiation. It was commerce between worlds. Give me something, and I'll give you something back. The structure of every myth, the exchange, the balance, the pact. Even the images we think are secular, black cats, witches, skeletons, are medieval Christianity's way of crystallizing fear into form. They're the shadow made visible, the parts of the psyche we don't want to look at, dressed up and paraded through the streets once a year, so we can pretend we're not afraid. By the 20th century, America had commercialized all of it. Costumes in plastic bags, candy instead of soul cakes, haunted houses you pay to enter. The sacred became secular, the ritual became entertainment. But the forms persist, because these aren't just symbols, they're archetypes. And archetypes don't die, and they just go underground until we're ready to remember them again. Jung saw this. The collective unconscious doesn't forget, it just waits. And every October 31st, something in us remembers why we're putting on masks, why we're carving faces into gourds, why we're walking through the dark, asking strangers for something sweet. We've forgotten the grammar, but we're still speaking the language. So let's go deeper. Let's cross the veil one more time, but inward, because the veil isn't just between this world and the other world. It's between who you are and who you're afraid to become, between the self you show and the self you hide, between consciousness and everything beneath it. Samhain was always an initiation, a ritual descent into the dark half of the year, into the underworld of the self. Every culture has this story. Inanna descending into the underworld, stripped at each gate. Persephone taken below to become queen of the dead. Christ in the tomb for 3 days. Osiris dismembered and reassembled. The night sea journey. Death, descent, and return. That's the structure. That's the initiation. And Halloween is how we enact it collectively, in miniature, disguised as children's play. We put on masks. We become other. We walk through the dark. We knock on doors we'd never knock on otherwise. We receive gifts from strangers. We return home changed, our bags full of sweetness pulled from the threshold. Children understand this instinctively. Play is their form of initiation, and on Halloween they're practicing the crossing. But here's what Samhain teaches if you let it. Darkness isn't the enemy. Darkness is the teacher. Every mythology knows this. Doorways and crossroads and twilight are where the gods appear. The in-between places, the liminal spaces, that's where transformation happens. Not in the light, where everything's clear and controlled, but in the murk, where you can't see what you're becoming until you've already become it. Death isn't an ending, it's a passage. Winter isn't punishment, it's preparation. The underworld isn't hell, it's the place you go to remember what you've forgotten. Samhain marks the death of the year, so the year can be reborn. And if you're paying attention, you realize we die and are reborn constantly. Across a lifetime, most of you is remade. Mind, memory, marrow. You're never exactly who you were. The veil between who you were and who you are is always thin. You've been crossing it your whole life. So what does the thinning offer? Contact with the ancestors, not just blood family, but everyone who came before, whose lives made yours possible. With the dead parts of yourself, the dreams you buried, the people you used to be. With the shadow, everything you've hidden behind the mask. And this is the gift. Honoring what's been means you stop pretending you're the beginning. Embracing the shadow means you stop exhausting yourself, holding up the persona. Acknowledging death means you stop living halfway. The thin places we seek, art, music, love, grief, they're all ways of crossing the veil, of touching what we can't see but know is there. Halloween just makes it communal. It gives us permission, one night a year, to stop pretending the veil isn't thin. So here we are, full circle. That child at the door adjusting their mask is wearing a ritual older than their language, older than their country, older than the religion they may or may not practice. They don't know it, but they're walking through a myth that's been unbroken for 2,000 years. The mask is the same, the threshold is the same, the exchange is the same. The veil never closed. We just stopped believing it was thin. And maybe that's what Halloween really is. Not a memorial to the past, but a rehearsal for the future. We practice our crossing. We practice transformation. We practice moving between worlds, visible and invisible, living and dead, light and shadow, and coming back whole. The jack-o'-lantern still glows. That stolen fire carried in the dark, lighting the way for everyone who doesn't belong to either world, but walks between them anyway. That's you. That's all of us. Carrying the flame no one gave us permission to carry, making light where there isn't any, crossing veils we're told don't exist. And maybe every time we light a candle or face our own darkness, we're repeating the same ritual, not to summon the dead, but to remember we're alive. The flame endures, and so do we.